Good afternoon, everyone from Halifax. My name is Wisdom Akwakiga. I'm the principal consultant with Dow Immigration Consulting Services Limited here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and I'm duly registered with the Immigration Consultants of Canada Regulatory Council. I'm a member of the Canadian Association of Professional Immigration Consultants and also a member of the Immigration Education Alliance here in Canada. I am licensed to practice in the province of Saskatchewan under the Foreign Worker Recruitment and Immigration Services Act. And I am here today to talk about alternatives to express entry. I would like to thank you for joining us today and for being a part of this online information session. A few weeks ago, we talked about the express entry, and then we looked at all the eligibility requirements and how to go about putting in an application or creating a profile on the express entry. And we also thought it was good to enlighten people on some alternatives that you might have just in case you do not exactly meet all the requirements for the express entry. So today, we will be running through some of the programs that are outside the express entry. I'm going to list a number of them, but I believe we will be taking them in segments. So we'll handle just 3 programs today. Hopefully we'll come back sometime in the future to talk about other programs that are that are outside the express entry system. We have quite a number of provincial nominee programs that have latched onto the express entry system as of today, but we still have some provincial nominee programs that are outside the express entry system. One of them would be the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. So that is also run outside the express entry system. Again, if you look at the bottom of the slide, you'll see some URLs there, just in case you want to read about these programs. I have taken time to drop the URLs there for you to look at. So if you want to take a peek of a picture or a photo of the screen, you might be able to browse and read more and get more information. So we have this Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. We have the Newfoundland Priority Skills. We have the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. And under that, we also have the Modern Immigration. I like stressing this because I feel it's sort of watered down, it waters some of the requirements down. So if you want to check and see what they have there, just in case you're eligible to apply under those schemes. We have the entrepreneurs and self-employed persons. We have the investors programs. We have startup business class. We do have the home child care provider pilot and the home support worker pilot. So that would be the first one that we will be talking about today. We have the Immigrant Investor Venture Capital class. We have the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. That will be the second program that we will be talking about today. We do have the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot Program. That will be the third one that we'll be talking about today. And the last that I have on my list here is the Agri-Food Immigration Pilot Program. Again, like I said, we have many of them. The list the list goes on and on, but these are some that I've identified here. So we will jump right into the first one, the Home Child Care Provider Pilot, and that will be under NOC 4411. Now, these programs have actually watered down some of the requirements that those programs we have on the express entry that they have. So as we run through the eligibility requirements, you'll see that perhaps you may be eligible for these if you are not eligible for the express entry programs. The first requirement here would be applicants would intend to reside in a province or territory other than Quebec. As I always tell people, Quebec has its own stream, Canada. So the first requirement here is you have to demonstrate intent to not reside in Quebec when you come into Canada. And the next requirement would be language proficiency. The minimum requirement would be a CLB5. So if you're conversant with the Express Entry, you will know that to get on the Express Entry pool, you would require a minimum of a CLB7. So this sort of watered down that requirement. Now, another requirement is educational credential assessment from certified 1 year or higher post-secondary education credential. That means you must have a degree that is 1 year or more obtained. And then if that is obtained here in Canada, you can use that without getting a credential assessment. But if that was obtained outside Canada, you would require a credential assessment. Now, you would also need 2 years of full-time Canadian work experience in an eligible occupation within the preceding 3 years to your application. Now, this requirement, the government of Canada, magnanimous enough to delay these requirements such that if you don't have 2 years Canadian work experience, you can still apply for this program, and then you will get a work permit that we will talk about shortly. Once you have the work permit to come to Canada to work, you can then work for 2 years and then meet this requirement of the 2 years full-time Canadian work experience, and then be eligible for the permanent residence visa. So even though at the time of your application, you don't meet this requirement, that's fine. You can still put in your application. And as soon as you have the requirement, you can update your application, and your application will continue to be processed. You have to have a valid full-time job offer from a Canadian employer in this occupation. So for a home childcare provider, you have to have children that you want to take care of. So a family can employ you and bring you over to Canada to come and help them take care of the children, maybe because they're too busy, they're not at home, they need help taking care of the children. So you would require a full-time job offer. And in Canada, when we say full-time, we mean at least 35 hours a week of work. So you have to work a minimum of 35 hours a week. Now, another requirement is intent and ability to perform the task required. So you have to demonstrate that you're coming to Canada to do this job, you have done it before, you are able to do it, your intention is to come to do it, and again, you have the ability to perform the task. Proof of work experience. So you have to demonstrate that you've done this before in the past, and you can show this with via pay stubs, contract, reference letters, and so on. Now, the big thing, the last but not the least, you have to be admissible to Canada. I believe that shortly we would be doing a session on admissibility to Canada, because this is very, very significant. So no matter how well you meet all these requirements, if you're inadmissible to Canada under any ground as stipulated in the Act and in the regulation, then you would not be able to come to Canada for either a temporary or a permanent purpose. So like I said, we would bring up a session shortly where we would educate people on the various ways you can become inadmissible to Canada. Now, the second program, which is very similar to the first one, is the Home Support Worker Pilot, and it's NOC 4412, 4412. And what is the difference between these and the first one? The first one, you're taking care of children or people that are under 18 years of age, while these you're taking care of adults. So adults that cannot take care of themselves can employ you to come and take care of them. And then, of course, they'll give you an offer to come to Canada to take care of them. So the requirements are pretty similar to what we had for the first one. So intend to reside in a province or territory other than Quebec, language proficiency, minimum of CLB 5, which is reading 4 on your IELTS, and writing 5, listening 5, and speaking 5 on your IELTS. Again, your ECA, you would have to get an ECA for 1 year or higher post-secondary education credential that is obtained outside Canada. 2 years of full-time Canadian work experience in an eligible occupation preceding within the preceding 3 years. Again, I mentioned you don't have to have this at the time of your application. You can apply and get a work permit and come to Canada and work, and then get this 2 years and then continue your application. The application would not be refused because you don't have these requirements or because you don't meet this requirement at the time of the application. You need to have a valid full-time job offer from a Canadian employer in this occupation. We said that before. Intent and ability to perform task required. Proof of work experience. Again, we said this before. Finally, you'll have to be admissible to Canada once again. So how these two programs, now I said these two programs are similar, how they both work. Now I'll run through how they work and then show you how you can apply for them. So you can apply to either the home childcare provider pilot or the home support worker pilot following a genuine job offer. So the first thing is you will need a job offer from an employer here in Canada. Again, that could be a friend, a family, anybody in Canada, a business, a company, it could be an individual, it doesn't really matter, but anyone that can demonstrate that they require your service to either come to take care of their children or to take care of any adult that is not able to take care of them. Now, after you've received that job offer, you submit a work permit application together with your permanent resident application. Remember, I told you that although one of the requirements of the permanent residence visa is for you to have 2 years Canadian work permit, but at this point, it's not absolutely required or mandatory that you have it at the time of application. So at the time of application, if you meet the requirement, you get an occupation restricted open work permit to work in Canada temporarily. That is, if you don't have 2 years work experience in Canada. And then once you have the work permit, you can work in Canada for 2 years. And once you get at least 24 months, at least 24 months of work experience to qualify for the permanent resident visa, you send proof of your work experience once you have enough to IRCC, and then they will continue processing your application and make a final decision on your application for permanent residence. I beg your pardon. Remember, I said you would get an occupation restricted open work permit. What does this mean? This simply means your work permit is open in terms of employers, so you can work for any employer within Canada. So the family that is bringing you to Canada can decide, you know what, they don't require your services anymore. Another family can pick you up and also give you another offer. And with the same work permit, you can work for them. You also can decide, okay, you know what, I'm tired of working with this employer. I would want to move on, and you can move on to another family. However, it is an occupation restricted work permit. So even though you're free to go from one employer to the other, you would be restricted to your occupation. So if you applied for home childcare provider pilot, you'll be restricted to that occupation. You cannot leave that occupation and start doing something different. So I think that's pretty clear and straightforward. The next program that we would be looking at today would be the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Programs. We do have 3 categories under this program. And we have the Atlantic International Graduate Program. We have the Atlantic High Skilled Program. And we have the Atlantic Intermediate Skilled Program. I'll just take a quick minute here to explain the region that this applies to. Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories. Now, these provinces and territories are grouped into areas or regions. So we do have where we call the North, which would be Yukon to far northwest, and then we have Nunavut, which is the last territory which would be northeast. To the far west, we have British Columbia, and then we have where we call the West, which would be the prairies, and that would include Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the province of Alberta. So those 3 provinces will form the West. We have the province of Ontario, we have Quebec, and then we have where we call the Atlantic provinces, which is in Atlantic Canada, and that would include Nova Scotia, where I live. I live in Halifax, in Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and Labrador. So now these programs would only apply to the Atlantic provinces. So if you can see the map that's displayed on your screen, it will be the area that's shaded light green, which is the far east portion of the map to the bottom. So I'm going to just run through each of these programs under the Atlantic pilot. The first one will be the Atlantic International Graduate Program. And the first requirement is you would have attended a recognized publicly funded Atlantic institution as a full-time student for a minimum of 2 years. And you would have obtained a 2-year post-secondary credential within 24 months prior to the application. Now, another requirement is you would have lived in an Atlantic province for 16 to 24 months before graduation. Now, your learning would not be over 50% of your program. Also, English as a second language or French as a second language would not qualify under this category. Now, they also are particular, they're saying you are not supposed to come to study on a scholarship that requires you to return home after the scholarship. I know that most countries would have scholarship that they give to citizens where they require the citizens to come back to the country after their studies. So if you are under such scholarship programs, you would not be eligible for this. Now, minimum language proficiency requirement would be CLB4. This is really low compared to what we would have under the express entry, which is a CLB7. Now, another very important point, you will need to demonstrate 12.5% of the LICO. LICO means low income cutoff. So that is the amount that you have to show in your account, especially if you are not already working and living in Canada. Again, in subsequent slide, I would show you what the LICO looks like. And again, it's a function of your family size. Now you have to demonstrate intent and ability to reside in the province. So we have these provinces in the Atlantic region. You need to demonstrate that you want to live in one of these provinces because those provinces will eventually endorse your application. So you need to prove to them that you want to live in that province. Now, 1 year full-time non-seasonal job offer. So you need to have a job offer under NOC 0 skill level, NOC skill level 0, A, B, or C from a designated employer. Now, we have employers here in Canada that are designated under this program. So you have to be sure that the employer that's giving you the employment is designated in one of the Atlantic provinces. Now you must also prove that they meet the education, training, and qualifications listed on the NOC. You must demonstrate that you meet all these requirements. If you go online, you'll be able to find a list of these designated employers across the provinces we have in Atlantic Canada. And then you can contact them, see what roles they're looking to hire for, and try to put in an application and try to secure an offer from them. And finally, you would require provincial endorsement. So once the designated employer offers you an employment, they would seek an endorsement from the province for that offer. And after that, you can then put in your application for permanent for your permanent resident visa. Finally, again, you have to be admissible to Canada to come under any of these programs. So the next program would be Atlantic High Skilled Program. Now, this is for those that have not studied in Canada. Those that have studied in Canada, they can come in through the previous scheme, but those that have not studied in Canada can come in through the Atlantic High Skilled Program or the next one that we will talk about after this. Now, the first requirement here would be you would need to have a Canadian high school or post-secondary education, educational credential or equivalent foreign credential. Of course, ECA verified within the last 5 years if that credential was gotten outside Canada. Minimum language proficiency requirement will be a CLB4, which would be a 3.5 on your IELTS reading, a 4.0 writing, a 4.5 listening, and a 4.0 speaking. You'll agree with me that that is really watered down compared to what you have on the Express Entry. A minimum of 1 year paid experience in NOC skill level 0, A, or B, full-time or an equivalent amount in part-time within the last 3 years. So within the last 3 years, you have to show that you have at least 1 year paid experience in an NOC skill level 0, A or B role. Okay. The next thing is, of course, you also have to demonstrate 12.5% of your LICO. Again, for those of us that are on the Express Entry or that have tried the Express Entry, you would know that the proof of fund, as you will see shortly, is way, way higher than what is required here because this is only 12.5% of the LICO. Again, we'll see that shortly. You have to demonstrate intent and ability to reside in an Atlantic province. 1 year full-time non-seasonal job offer in NOC skill level 0, A, B, or C from a designated employer in an Atlantic province. Must prove that they meet the education, training, and qualification listed on the NOC. Again, the employer would have to get an endorsement from the province for you. And it is after that that you can put in your application to IRCC. Finally, you also have to be admissible to Canada to come in through this program. The last immigration pilot scheme would be the Atlantic Intermediate Skills. The other one was high skilled, and this is intermediate skilled program. Pretty much the same requirement here. Canadian high school, post-secondary, minimum 1 year post-secondary school, minimum of 1 year experience, now in NOC skill level C, or as a nurse under NOC 3012 or 3233. Again, you'd have to show 12.5% of your LICO, which I'll show you in a minute. Demonstrate intent and ability to live in an Atlantic province. 1 year full-time non-seasonal job offer, as with the others. Again, we must prove that they meet the education, training, and qualification listed on the NOC. The employer, again, will secure an endorsement from the province, and then you can apply for your PR if you are admissible to Canada. If you're not admissible to Canada, you cannot come into Canada for any of this program. I did mention earlier on that we will be doing a session subsequently on inadmissibility to Canada and grounds that can make you inadmissible, or things that can make you inadmissible to Canada. Again, I did mention that I was going to show you the LICO. Now, this is 12-month LICO. Again, I just compared for 4 years, just to like give you some idea how this figure increases over the years. So if you see, again, it's a function of the size of the family. So if you're just one person coming, it will be one person. But if it is you and your spouse, it will be 2 people or 2 persons. If you have a child, it will be 3 persons. So in 2021, if you're one person and you're coming in, it will be $26,439. But again, remember that you are only supposed to demonstrate 12%. Again, I'm just going to quickly, 12.5%, I beg your pardon. I'm just going to tell you what that figure is, at least for this category. And then we can, so if you are coming as a single person, that would only be $3,304.88. So if I were you, I'll just maybe make that 3,500 just to err on the path of caution there. So you can see that 3,500 is nothing compared to what you would show as proof of fund if you were to be coming under any of the express entry schemes, which would be well, I believe, about $12,000 or more. Okay, so these are the LICO over the years. If you want to take a quick picture, you can. If not, we will move on to the last program that I'll be talking about today. Remember, I said if you have questions, drop them on the chat box, and then we will be able to take some questions. And also, if time permits, we might be taking some questions from people that want to ask the questions directly. Okay, so the rural and northern immigration pilot program. This program, as against what we've looked at before now, is community driven. So it is a community driven program. So just the same way provinces will nominate you before now, these communities will be the one to like nominate you or sponsor you or recommend you to the government of Canada for a permanent resident visa. So it is a community-driven program. It tries to spread the benefits of economic immigration to smaller communities. So instead of everybody just going to maybe Toronto or Calgary or Vancouver or any of all those big cities to reside, these smaller communities are saying, okay, if you commit to live in our community, we would be able to sponsor your application and help you in your dream to either come to Canada or remain in Canada as a permanent resident. Now, It is, again, we said it creates a path to permanent residence for skilled foreign workers who want to work and live in one of the participating communities. So you have to know these communities. The next slide, I will show you these communities so that you can either make a note of these communities, and obviously you have to go to their website because each community has their requirements. So the government of Canada has its like the umbrella requirement, but beyond that, each community has its own particular requirements. So I would encourage you to go into these websites for these communities and see their requirements so that you can try to meet these requirements and then put in an application under this. I'm going to run through the requirements for the government of Canada, which is the IRCC requirements. Again, like I said, these are not the only requirements. You would have to go into the individual websites of the communities and see the other requirements that they may have. So we have one of the IRCC requirements is 1 year of continuous work experience in the past 3 years, or have graduated from a publicly funded post-secondary institution in the recommending community. So it's either you have 1 year of continuous work experience or you have graduated from a post-secondary institution in the recommending community. Again, language requirements for NOC skill level 0 and A, you would have a CLB 6. For NOC skill level B, you have a CLB 5. NOC skill level C, you would have skill level C, I beg your pardon, and skill level D, you would need to meet a CLB 4, which is also very low. Canadian high school or post-secondary educational credential or equivalent foreign credential, of course, with an ECA verified within the last 5 years. Prove you have enough money to support your transition into the community. So again, this is sort of some of the information that you'll get from the community. They'll be able to guide you to let you know how much you will need to show to demonstrate that you have enough money to support your transition into the particular community. Again, very importantly, you would have to demonstrate intent to live in the community. You'll need to also secure a job offer from an employer in one of the participating communities. So these communities, they're able to work with people that are interested in, to walk them through the entire process and also guide them in obtaining job offers from employers locally. Now, recommendation from the participating community where job offers from, you obviously have to get a recommendation from this participating community before you can proceed to put in your application. Very, very importantly, you would have to meet community-specific requirements, again, which I said you would find in their various websites that I showed you before now. So these are the 3 programs that we will be talking about today. I have quickly run through the requirements of these programs, and thank you for everyone that has taken time to attend our webinar today. Those that have asked questions, those that have stayed with us till the end of the information session, thank you for taking time out to follow us. Like to inform everyone that you can contact us on our contact details that are being displayed right now on your screen. You can reach us on phone number +1 902 802 0512. Our email address is info@dowimmigration.com. Our website is www.dowimmigration.com. As I've mentioned earlier on, you can also follow us on all our social media handles at Dow Immigration. And we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and we're on Instagram. And I would encourage you to follow us on all our handles. As we begin to wrap things up today, I finally want to thank everyone, and I would encourage you to follow us so that you get notified when our next information session is going to be holding. So on the final note, I say thank you once again, and we will see you when we have our next session. Thank you very much, and stay safe.